So you want to save flatbread to the very end because you want to try to serve them together. Mm-hmm. And so when you're basically turning up the heat for everything, you're really cranking the heat. Yeah. And the animal is finishing its final blast, and you're doing the flatbread at the same time, like 3 feet away. Yeah. It's exciting, and you just can't, it's like a rush.
It's very intense.
It's so cool.
It's like a 40-hour moment. You know, like you're in the moment. It's about 40 hours. Yeah. At least that one was.
All in 1 hour.
Yeah. Yeah. But we should talk about the flatbread, because people are going to ask, well, how do you make the flatbread?
Oh, gosh. Okay.
And I would say that the way at least it works for us is usually the animals are cooling, or, they're resting. Uh-huh. So like I'll take the animal off the spit. Mm-hmm. It's sitting on a table. It's at its rest, which is a minimum of an hour. Mm-hmm. And then we start cooking flatbread.
Oh, I thought we've done it together. We've done it both ways.
Well, I think this last time was the best.
You're right.
We cooked during the rest because remember, the rest it's not indefinite, but it's always much longer than you think. Yeah. A whole carcass can rest a very long time without getting cold.
It depends on how big the animal is too, but yeah.
But at least an hour, and you're solid. And by that time, you probably cooked a lot of the flatbread, because I would say cold flatbread is probably worse than tepid meat. Okay. To be honest.
Yeah, you're right.
And what we do with the flatbread is it's your starter. It's not a yeasted thing. Mm-hmm. And we happen to have cinder blocks along with everyone else in the northern 48. And but sheets of steel, and these suckers are like 1/4 inch thick, and they're crazy heavy. Mm-hmm. And we prop those up on a couple levels of cinder block, and the fire is just crazy hot underneath, because it's a fast cook. Mm-hmm. And you throw some olive oil on the steel, and it just immediately vaporizes into gas and smokes off. And then we make the flatbread. We cook it on that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're cooking literally for like 20 seconds each, maybe, flipped once with a pizza peel, a gigantic pizza spatula. Mm-hmm. But how do you start the flatbread? How do you make it? It's finished with that quick fry, olive oil, salt. Boom, done. That's the flatbread. Yeah. But
back it up 12 hours. Yeah. So I started the night before. And it's very similar to my regular bread, which I'm hoping I can do like a video on at some point. But I have a sourdough starter. That's the key. So find someone with a sourdough starter that they can give you a little bit of, and then you grow that, basically. Which growing your starter just means creating more starter. So you're not trying to make dough yet. You're just trying to add enough water and flour in the measure that it increases in volume, but it stays the same consistency.
So super goopy and liquid.
It's
not dough at all.
No.
Yeah. Sticky.
And for a roast of the size that we do, I started out in a bowl, just like regular big kitchen bowl, and I grow it to fill that basically, and then I dump that into a big bus tub, like the bus tubs you use when you're butchering.
Can carry 30 pounds of meat.
Right.
Or 50, sorry.
Yeah, and I fill that at least halfway, maybe a little over halfway, and then by the time it rises, it's like at least 2/3 of the way full. And then I grow the starter in the bus tub to about maybe 1/3 of the way, and then I create my dough.
Does that take a couple hours?
It takes,
okay,
about maybe a hand. It depends on what time of year it is. That's the other thing.
So it's the heat. So you just got to watch it.
Watch it, yeah. But have it grow to about 1/3 of the way up to a bus tub, and then create your dough at that point, which is adding way more flour than water at this point, because you're wanting it to be thicker, but not too thick, because I've made it too thick, and then it's just, you really want a good moisture level in it. And if you are developing the gluten properly, then it won't just fall apart into mush.
No crumbly.
Yeah. So it's a balance, and you can find resources out there. I would recommend Tartine, Tartine, and we'll put a link to it. It's the best book out there that talks about growing your own starter, for instance, and making your own sourdough bread. But it has the ratios that you may want to just start with, because I don't know the ratios. I've never been that scientific about it. And that's why it's taken me 3 years to get good at it. So if you want to maybe get good at it before then, look at the exact precise ratios. You know, they give you this percentage, flour to salt to water.
Okay.
And I don't have all that in my brain, but
so it's risen to 2/3 of the bus tub.
Yeah.
And then you add flour and water. An indefinite quantity that they can find in tartine and learn that ratio.
No. Fill the bus tub to 1/3 of the way of just the starter.
Okay.
And then you're going to create the dough, which will rise it up to about half of the bus tub.
Okay.
And then once the dough rises, then you're looking at 2/3 of the bus tub filled.
Wow.
And that's enough for a pretty solid party.
How many does that feed in terms of flatbread? What are we shooting for when we do the roast? Is that 150, 200 people?
Yeah.
So in between 100 and 200 people.
Yeah.
That's the quantity.
Well, yeah, it is, because then you have a lot of leftover flatbread if you have it. If not, then you don't have it. But it's leftover flatbread's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So I always make a lot more.
And then once it's all doughy and risen or proofed, is that the other word for that? Then you throw a bunch of flour on a flat surface.
Make sure you're turning it. Make sure you're stretching it. It's a no-knead bread. It's a no-knead recipe. So, but you do have to every half hour to an hour turn it, which is like stretching and folding it just a few times all the way around the bus tub.
But not like pushing in and wringing it out and flattening it and rolling it. It's
you're
none
just
of that.
Kind of like awakening the glutens. Just like, come on, baby glutens. Like, let's be alive here, but you're not trying to kill them.
Yeah.
So, another way I frame it is you want to catch it when it's on its way up, but not all the way up. You want to catch it when it's on the rise. If you catch it and you start making bread with it when it's fully risen, then it's going to die in the process of making your dough balls or your bread or whatever it is. So you want to catch it when it's still kind of young, when it's still rising.
On the gain, like sheep in the spring.
Exactly.
You want to slaughter your animals when they're on the gain on spring grass, everybody.
Yeah. Exactly. And then, so when you've caught that, so the timing of that is kind of important and tricky, but I've gotten pretty good at it with this party. You make sure you have a friend who just became Catholic, who also was a baker. That's what you do, because that's what I did this year. And I passed off the actual frying of it to my good friend, who just entered the church, and I was like, here, you do the bread. And I ran away, and he just kind of did the rest. But he had experience shaping the dough balls in a really beautiful way. You practice shaping the dough balls, basically, into round balls about the size of a softball maybe.
Yeah.
And then you get little 12-year-old girls to help you flatten them out. And you use lots of flour so that they don't get sticky.
During the shaping.
Right.
Yeah.
You kind of shape them out into pizza size flatbreads, like the size of a basketball maybe. And then sprinkle it with a heavy sprinkle of olive oil and salt. And then you fry them up. And you hand them off to the fire crew. And you guys fry them really well. You guys have gotten really good. And I kind of stay out of that. But.
Yeah. You'll see with flatbread, they will, if your steel is sufficiently hot, you'll see, and I think if you catch it on the rise, like you were saying, I think that's a big part of it. You'll see huge bubbles form in the dough, like just immediately. It'll go on that heat and bubble up, like it's trying to get off of the steel. It's trying to jump off of it. And it's really just a matter of seconds. And I like to flip it. And when I flip it, I want to see on the side that was just being cooked, like distinct black spots. You absolutely want char, indisputable char. And it's just a balance, it's a matter of learning what the balance is of char to nicely browned to cooked, but still pretty, clear white dough, but fully cooked, And the way, the first couple flatbreads are always a bit of a test as you figure out how to monitor doneness depending on the completely unmeasurable heat of your fire, because there's no thermometer action going on. And I just rip the thickest part of the bread, which is usually the corners, and you just want to see no dough, nice airy pockets of air in there, that it has been fully cooked all the way through.
And we've gotten better at it over the years. So the first couple of years, it was still delicious, but it wasn't probably as good as we've done the last couple of years. So just dive in and start doing it.